So good evening, everybody, and a very warm welcome tonight to this online session. I'm Nicola McAlley, and I'm delighted to be hosting tonight's event on behalf of the University of the Highlands and Islands. I hope everybody can hear me loud and clear. It's a real pleasure for UHI to welcome back Peter May, not only as an internationally best-selling author and musician, but as a long-standing friend of the university. Through his generous support, including founding the Peter May Fiction Prize, he's inspired and championed emerging writers across the Highlands and Islands, making tonight's event all the more special. So, how will this evening work? During the special online event, Peter will introduce the inspiration behind Towards the Light, his new album. He'll reflect on how songwriting differs from writing novels. He'll discuss the themes explored in the album and share selected tracks and insights into how they were created. And he's also going to take part in a live question and answer session with you, the audience. So let's get started. Peter, great to see you. We were saying beforehand, I think you and I have been talking about your books largely for about 12 years now, which is just quite incredible. I can't believe it, where the time's gone. But tonight we're here to talk about something completely different. It's your new musical project, Towards the Light. And it's a bit of a full circle moment, I think, because I remember way back when we first met, you were talking about your passion for music as a teenager. So tell me, first of all, how did Towards the Light come about?
Oh my goodness. It was one of those very strange situations. Studio where I am just now in 2019 to basically dedicate my time to writing and recording music as my writing career tailed off as I started to produce less in the way of books. And we'd had a couple of fantastic sessions in the studio late 2019 with basically the kernel of the Peter May band. And one of those was my best friend, Stephen Penn from, we started school together age 4. We were in our first band together all through teens, all the rest of it. And he was here for those sessions and they were great. And we had planned another one for August 2020, but of course, the pandemic intervened and it never happened. And in 2022, Stephen died. He'd been fighting brain cancer for 2-3 years. Never happened. And it kind of, if you like, disincentivized me. I kind of lost my appetite for it. And I was sitting in the studio one day, quite a sunny morning. I'd connected up the keyboard and a single line came to me, which was, every time I think of you, I smile. And it was just me thinking about Stephen, and the song just poured out of me within about 30 minutes. And it was, if you like, it was my very belated way of dealing with the fact that, my best friend through my whole life had died and left me on because it felt like it was standing on my shoulders as I was doing this and urging me on. And that was the first song. And I just thought, okay, let's just keep the ball rolling with this. And obviously I'd used the other guys who'd been there in those initial sessions, the drummer, Stephen J, the bass player, Ian Fieber, and augmented that with my good friend in Scotland, Mike Baxter, and slightly later on, guitarist in Switzerland called Ralph Carter. And I was working with lyrics that a lot of the lyrics were written by a friend of mine, Irish poet called Dennis McCoy, who was living half the year next door to me here in France. And we would talk about things, subjects, the things that worried us. He's the same age as me, so the subject of growing old crops up a lot. The things that concerned us about the world: climate change, war, diplomacy, dictatorship, authoritarianism, all those things were crowding in around us. So it seemed natural to write about them, because you reach a stage in your life where you're looking back on things. A teenager, everything's fresh and new, and you're writing about young love and all that sort of thing. Well, obviously we've left that behind us many, many decades ago. So we're taking a different perspective on the world, looking back rather than looking forward. And that's how the whole thing grew out of that initial song, which was about dealing with grief and long lost friendship.
And I've had the pleasure of listening to the album quite a few times now, and it's there's so many broad themes in there, but very personal ones as well, and you blended them all together just superbly. And your band, you touched on there. I mean, it's a bit of an international effort there, isn't it? Drawing together all these musicians. And I think one of your musicians has a tie-in as well with certainly at least one of your novels. Is that right?
Yes. Sorry, you dropped out a bit for me there on this. But you were talking about the band members being spread around, and one of the songs tying in with stuff I'd written in one of the books. Is that right?
That's right. That's right.
Yeah. Well, let me talk about the band first. It's interesting that the drummer I met when I moved into the house that I'm living in now. The electrics in the house are an absolute disaster area, and I couldn't get anybody to rewire it. I had several French electricians in to look at it, and they all just kind of threw their hands up in the air and said, together over many decades by different people, and it was an absolute mess. And eventually somebody recommended this guy called Steve J, who lived about 15 minutes away. And Steve came out and took a look at it and said, this is a mess, but yes. And Steve was English. And it didn't take long chatting to him to discover that he was a drummer. And had a fantastic pedigree. His dad was Lewis Warburton. It was his name. He came from he was a saxophonist in a band in the 40s and 50s called the Squadronaires. And during the 60s and 70s, he was basically Britain's top pop arranger. All those orchestral sounds and band sounds that backed up all the big hits of the 60s and 70s. That was Steve's dad that did all those arrangements. So, Steve and I got together, and I very quickly discovered he was a terrific drummer. The bass player, Ian Fever, I met quite a number of years ago now. He came to one of the writing courses that my wife and I were running in France in the early 2000s. And he just happened to meet his future wife at that writing course. Not only that, he ended up buying my old house. And in the course of all this, I discovered, lo and behold, he was a bass player, and he played with a cover band in Leeds where he lived. But he now works for a wealth management company in Switzerland, and he flies every week from Leeds to Switzerland, spends all week in Switzerland working, and then so it's quite a commute. And in Switzerland, he plays in a kind of heavy rock band. And it was through that heavy rock band that Ian introduced me to the guitarist, Ralph Carter. It was really his band. And Ralph, in a way, came belatedly to the... had been the guitarist. I play guitar, so I play a lot of the acoustic guitar and a bit of electric guitar on the various tracks. But I'm not a capable lead guitarist at all. And Ian suggested that Ralph would be good to bring in on some of those tracks. So I made space on several tracks and sent them to Ralph, and he sent me back these various takes that he'd done, and I was blown away by them and thought they were fantastic. So we edited them into the songs, and we'll definitely involve him at an earlier stage in any future projects. Now, the other character who contributes is called Mike Baxter. And strangely enough, I met Mike when I was doing research for the Enzo books, because I was looking for background for Enzo, a sort of authentic career path and background in forensics. And my wife had been at university with Mike, who was a few years younger than me. And it turned out that Mike had become Scotland's top forensics guy. So I got in touch with Mike and basically used his whole career history and background for the character of everybody else. I discovered he was a keyboard player, and he plays synths in a prog rock band. He's retired now, and they're all of a certain age, and they've been writing and making albums. Long Earth, they're called, and they do gigs around the country. And so I would send him tracks that weren't quite finished and say, what can you do to enhance these for me with the synth? And he would send me stuff back, and it was always great. So that's how we got all these different contributions from all these different people in Scotland, England, Switzerland, and France. So it's a real international effort.
And it's all come together wonderfully, because when you listen to the album, it's such a rich, full sound on all the tracks, and they all have obviously different elements to them. Some are more maybe guitar-led, and some more synth-led, but the way the whole album flows is just fantastic. And it's just as well you're nice about Ian and Mike, because I think they're actually on the session as well. I saw their names popping up there. Apparently Ralph's working, so he can't come. But
shame.
Yeah, so they're all, the gang's all here nearly.
Good stuff.
So, but I think everybody who's on is just going to be desperate if they haven't already had a chance to listen to any of the tracks yet. What's going to happen is Peter's going to introduce a track. We're going to hear a snippet of it, and then we'll have a quick chat about it, and then we'll move on. So we have about half a dozen tracks to play. Jessica Taylor from University of Highlands and Islands is very kindly going to facilitate the audio element of this. So bear with us if there's a tweaking of sound levels. It's just to make sure that we get them right. But I think we'll start off, Peter, if you would. Tell us a little bit about the first track that you've selected, which is I Wasn't There.
Well, this is the one that kicked off the whole album. This is my kind of tribute to Stephen, my old friend who died. As I said, the whole song began with this simple phrase in my head every time I think of you. All I could do was express my regret and sadness that I wasn't there for his final moments. And so this is just a short clip. I think it's the final chorus.
We're just waiting for Jessica to bring in
Sorry,
the audio.
that wasn't as slick as it was meant to be. Bear with me.
Technology. We're all in different places. It'll all be grand. But a very difficult subject, but a great tribute to your friendship, which has been enduring throughout all these decades, and such a personal one as well. But I guess it's truly a song from the heart.
Absolutely. In a way that set the tone for the whole album, that everything was written from the heart.
Okay. Can I check?
So
you can see that now. Sorry.
Yes, we can see it.
You can. Fab.
A hugely emotional moment writing that song, and it led to many more emotional expressions. But I think we've got the clip coming up now.
Sorry about that. Bear with me.
Wish I'd had the chance to say goodbye. Didn't think you'd fly quite so
Can I check your hearing that? Because it's gone very quiet on me.
Yeah.
Yes, that was just, it was a very short snippet, so I wasn't quite sure if it had completed, but
yeah, it was just
Thank
the chorus. It's, I think, something that everybody can identify with, who's lost somebody with.
absolutely. I mean, yeah, I mean, it's very heartfelt, and you can really feel the emotion, when you sit and listen to the whole track. And if you have a chance to read the lyrics as well, I think it's something that will really resonate with a lot of people. And I know when I listen to music, we were talking about this, Peter, the lyrics feature very strongly for me, along with the melody. Some people just listen to the ebb and flow of the song. So I think we have half a dozen songs. So we were going to look at, if you want to maybe cue up the next one, Jess. It's called Last One Standing.
Yeah. I'm going to get to hear this one again while I'm getting
Hear a
ready.
bit more about this one.
Sorry.
So Last One Standing. So Peter, do you want to tell us a little bit about Last One Standing?
Yeah, this was a lyric written by Dennis McCoy. And it's a song about growing old and watching all our contemporaries pass away before us. It's all very There's the guitar of Ralph Carter, and leads to the final chorus where, the singer of the song is the last one standing. And it's just about that, looking back over your life and watching all those people fade away, and you find yourself to be the last one still there.
Another very strong one there, and I think you can hear the quality of the musicianship as well, obviously, as your dulcet tones, Peter. But it's very, I always think when you listen to the tracks, they're very filmic. I can visualize them, which I think it just reflects your talent as a writer, bringing the songs to life. So yeah, I mean, we've got 6 to listen to, and we're really only getting a flavour of them. So I really urge people to go and listen to the whole album in its entirety. So I think the third one is The Dictator, and I'll leave it over to you, Peter, to explain a bit about that one.
This is another set of lyrics written by Dennis. I mean, he and I have watched with some alarm as the world has swung violently towards authoritarianism and dictatorship. And this is really the story of one such dictator getting his comeuppance. No names, no pack drill. I think we know who we're talking about here. Just wishful thinking.
What you gonna do when the righteous come for you? What you gonna say on Judgment Day? How's it gonna feel when your enemies get how's it gonna feel when your enemies does your head of gold stand up on feet of clay? Does your head of gold stand up on what you gonna do when your righteous come for you? What you gonna say on Judgment Day?
Did you have a particular sound that you wanted to bring to the fore throughout the album, Peter? I mean, they all the songs have different flavors, but I mean, they're very much related to each other. Do you know what I mean? But did you have a particular genre or era in your head that you wanted to kind of evoke through the album?
I mean, I grew up basically with the Beatles in the 60s, so I think, you could probably tell there's a lot of Beatles influence in a lot of these songs. There were other influences as well, obviously, in the 60s and the 70s, even into the 80s. I, I don't know that I was looking to get a certain sound, but, whoever you are, whatever it is you're doing, whether you're writing and playing music, whether you're writing stories or in a book or for a TV series, there's always a kind of fingerprint there which is uniquely yours, whether it's a sound or a style, a way of telling a story. I can't say that I particularly identified a sound that I was after. It was interesting when the raw tracks were sent over the pond to the States to the guy who was going to mix and master it, a fella called Luc Despain, who's probably less than half my age. He described it as retro. So I suppose that kind of identifies it, my musical tastes and roots. They belong very much to the past and a kind of, I suppose, an old-fashioned sense of songwriting. But the lyrics, ultimately the lyrics are the most important thing. The song is there to carry the lyrics, to tell the story. Getting those lyrics right is very important. So it was good that I chimed very well with Dennis, on many of these songs, and others, of course, that I wrote myself. I wasn't there, the song for Stephen. And Towards the Light was another one. I think that's the next clip we're going to play. And that was the story of my father's dementia, which I explored very fully in The Lewis Man. It's a story. I suppose it's a bit weird for a song, but it's a story told in first person. It's told in his own words. And in this clip, we hear the chorus leading into what I would call the middle eight, or the variation in the song, where the narrator tells his son, me, that he really loves him. Now, this happened and was somehow all the more shocking to me because my father was a Scottish man of his generation who almost never expressed his emotions, and here he was telling me he loved me. So it obviously had to end up in the song.
Very touching, and I think we're going to, if we're able to queue up the next track, Towards the Light. We're going to listen to Towards the Light just now, which, as you said, is about your father. So getting back again to the very personal elements of the album. And certainly the Beatles, I can identify absolutely the Beatles-esque, but I think a bit of Pink Floyd's in there too. I would say Kaleidoscope. Kaleidoscope has genres of that, but I mean, it's very much an album stands on its own 2 feet because it's so good. And I was saying to Peter, for anyone listening to the session today, you only have to listen to it once or twice and you are humming along and you know some of the lyrics. It's very catchy. So yeah, in its entirety, give it all a listen. But I think we're going to listen to this very personal song now, which of course the whole album is named after, Towards the Light.
All right, we're actually, the song was track 4, but let me skip to Towards the Light. Hold on a second, apologies.
There we go.
And I'm traveling now, traveling straight towards the light. Daylight slowly fading leaves me trapped inside this endless night. A young man comes and sits with me, takes my hand to squeeze. I feel his warmth reach through the cold, never wanting him to leave. But call out to him in the dark, I really love you, son.
Yeah, you can really hear your emotion coming through in that as well, I think, Peter, with in the tone of your voice there.
Yeah, it was you know, I'd written about that quite extensively in the second of the Lewis trilogy, Lewis Man, where one of the characters, Tormod, Marshally's father, suffers from dementia. I'd based that character almost exclusively on my experience with my dad, some of which was quite heartbreaking, but there was also a lot of humor in it. You know, he did some crazy stuff. You know, he ended up in a kind of home on the banks of Loch Long, would you believe? And he he ended up leading the escape committee. You know, the people who ran the home came down in the middle of the night one night and found my dad and half a dozen of the other inmates all dressed with their suitcases packed, trying to break out the kitchen window, led by my dad, of course. So you know, there were lots of moments that were offered up that were kind of bittersweet, sad and funny at the same time. So you know, it felt when I was doing this album, it was right to pen a song like this that would tell his story.
Very hard illness and experience to navigate for anybody, no matter which side of the coin you're on, whether it's, you know, yourself going through it or your you know, the family of somebody in that situation. But I think you really sum it up so lovely in Towards the Light. So thanks for sharing that with us. Jessica, I think I made your job difficult there because I jumped ahead of track.
No, that's okay.
So I don't know if you want to go back, if it's possible, and we could look at The Diplomat, which Peter is going to tell us a little bit about as well.
I think there's quite a nice bit of Ralph's guitar work in this clip. Diplomat, again, it's Dennis, and it's very much his take on those secretaries of state or foreign ministers who wine and dine their enemies, wheeling and dealing in the narrow interest of their particular government without any real sense of care or understanding of the needs of ordinary people. They operate on quite a different plane, and that really struck a chord with me.
Emissary diplomat, he sits to right the world. Educated, born and bred to lead and rule the herd. He doesn't know of you and me or commonplace concern. So much is real he doesn't know. So much he'll never learn.
Fantastic. I hope everybody's getting a sense of the quality of the production and the musicianship involved, as well as, of course, your voice, Peter, and the lyrics that pull everything together as well. Because I mean, it's really superb the way the whole thing flows. So obviously you've got all your musicians in different countries. How did that aspect of it come together? Did people just record this and then send it to you first, or how did it work?
Well, I would work here in the studio, develop the song, and I would end up recording maybe 2 or 3 tracks with keyboard and perhaps acoustic guitar, and then I would do a guide vocal track. And then we use a big file transfer system called WeTransfer, because music files are huge, and internet takes quite a bit of doing, and so we transferred the files. So I would send them, for example, to Ian in Leeds or Switzerland, wherever he might be at the time, and he would sit down with his bass and work out his bass line, and then he would record that, and he uses exactly the same system or application, piece of software that I use for recording. They call them, it's called a DAW, a digital audio workstation. It's a fancy name for it. But he uses the same one as I use. So he would send me these tracks back. And I, such is the technology, I can just track that he sends and drop it into my master track. And generally we work with what's called a click track, which is kind of like a metronome, an electronic metronome, and it means everybody's playing to the same time. So there's no problem about synchronizing everything. And so I can drop the bass track in and it's ready and synchronized and ready to roll. And even with the drums, I mean, the drums were done afterwards. I have a drum set here in the studio. It's an electronic kit, and Steve doesn't much care for it. I think it's not a bad sound from it, but he likes playing acoustic drums, and I don't blame him. He has his own set at home. Steve used to have his own recording studio in the UK, and at home he has a mini recording studio set up. He's got his drums all set up, and he mics them with about 4 or 5 or 6 different mics, and so he records the drum track, mixes all those tracks down into a stereo track, which he then sends back to me, and again I can drop in ready synchronized into the master track. And that's basically how it works. It's the wonders of technology. You couldn't have done this, even 20 years ago. It would not have been possible. And so technology has enabled us to collaborate and work together from across the world, basically. I mean, after all, the tracks all went over to the States to get mixed and mastered and then came back again. So they're well-traveled songs in that sense.
And what do you do if you have artistic differences then? Because you can't throw your guitar on the floor and storm out.
I'm sorry, Nicola, you dropped out on me there. I missed that.
I said, what do you do in this situation if you have an artistic disagreement because you can't throw your guitar and storm out?
Well, that's true, yes. It means that I have total control. I am the master of the universe. And whatever I do, whatever edits I make, and however I mix it in, that's down to me. And but every one of these musicians have their own head. They are. I mean, I think it's absolutely right that they should have total creative expression. I'm not going to tell them what to play. I might have a thought about what it might be like, but at the end of the day, it's up to them to create their track, the bass track, the guitar, the drums, keyboards, whatever it might be. So it's a 100% creative input from each of these guys, and I'm really chuffed and proud to be working with them.
Well, certainly you're all in tune with each other wonderfully because it's come together so well. I think, hopefully, Jess, we're going to hear the last of the tracks just now, which is called
Indeed.
When I'm Gone. So, Peter, if you'd be so kind to tell us a little bit about When I'm Gone.
Yeah, it's a kind of modeling age-related piece. I was walking my dog one bright, cold winter's morning, marveling at the nature that surrounded me and thinking how it would all still be here long after I was dead. And I started imagining, I started imagining those things that in theory I would miss when I was gone. One of which, of course, is my nearly lifelong partner with whom I made and shared so many memories. And what happens to those memories? They exist only now in the remaining partner, and when she passes, they'll be lost forever. So do any of us really leave any lasting mark on this earth? And that was the impetus behind this song.
sun is rising with the mist that tumbles down upon a cold and frosty early winter's day. Frost crunching underfoot as I pull on my boots to walk among once golden fields of hay. And I remember when I was still young, and then I thought I'd live forever and a day. But all the dreams I dreamed have vanished in the haze, and now they're lost in time that's stolen them away. These are the things I will remember when I'm gone, the memories that we made broken in two. Best forgotten now, the things that all went wrong, for above all else you know that I'll miss you. Oh my darling, you know that I'll miss you.
I just want to sit and listen to the whole album. It's so evocative. I mean, you can just think of the scene and when you listen to it and the words. So thank you so much for sharing those just short excerpts of the album Towards the Light, Peter. Really, really special to hear them. And there are 11 tracks on the album, so that was a great flavour of what listeners can expect. I'm going to put you on the spot. Do you have a favourite?
You dropped out again, Nicola. I'm so sorry.
It's when I'm asking you the killer question.
Yes,
I said, I'm going to put you on the spot. Do you have a favourite?
oh gosh, I actually do. I quite like them all. They've all kind of grown on me over the period. My favourite's probably one that nobody else in the band would agree with me on, but I don't know. There's just something about it that I quite liked in the construction of it and the way that it all came together for me. And I've forgotten the title of it. It's called. It's the one about. Wait a minute. Hard Cell City, it's called, and it's just about how people are trying to sell to us all the time, every day, every minute of our lives, regardless of what's happening. The bombs might be falling all around us, but these people are still trying to sell us, the elastic knickers or whatever. I really liked the lyric. It was a Dennis lyric, but it was a very different kind of song that I had written to go with it, and I really quite liked that one.
Yeah, you talk about shiny, shiny, shiny things, don't you?
Yes.
That one. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I was trying to find the notes I'd written about that one. That was one that stuck out for me as well. But they're all excellent. All songs are fantastic, and they all tell a tale, which is very apt for a worldwide best-selling novelist. How does songwriting differ from writing a book, Peter? Apart from the fact one is far shorter than the other one.
Well, it's it's not that different. The process is obviously very, very different, but the fundamental approach is the same. At the end of the day, you're just telling stories. Whether you're writing a book, whether you're writing an episode of a TV show, whether it's all about the narrative. The thing that strikes me always as being odd, unusual, different, or notable, I guess, is the fact that, to write a book, it probably takes me, 6 months, 7 months from beginning to end. And then there's the whole process of promotion, which uses up the rest of the year. Now, to write an album, it probably took me a year to write and record the album, and a little longer to get it, mixed and mastered. But here's the difference now. I write a book, and it's, I don't know, 300, 400, 500 pages long. It takes somebody, a reader, 15 hours or more to read it. The album is about 40 minutes long. That's all it takes for somebody to listen to it. So, I've probably put even more time into making that album, but it's more accessible and more easily digestible than a book, which takes quite a commitment of time and effort to read. So in that sense, songwriting is a much more immediate way of communicating with your audience.
Obviously towards the light reflected your father's experience and your experience, which did, you did touch on that in one of your books, obviously, as well. But could you ever see yourself marrying the two up and writing songs about Enzo, for example?
That would be a bit difficult, I think. I did at one point try to marry up music and writing and theatre, in fact. I'd always been a big fan of the Alan Parsons Project. And Alan Parsons was born on the same day as me, but he's about 2 or 3 years older than I am. Of course, he was the tape engineer on the recording of Abbey Road. He was the sound engineer on the recording of Dark Side of the Moon, Pink Floyd, and I do all his own stuff that he'd done. And I'd always thought, listening to his stuff, that each Alan Parsons song was like the best song in a musical. In a musical, a lot of the songs are just treading water, getting the words across, but the songs aren't up to much. And then there's one really good song, Don't Cry for Me, Argentina, or what,
Yeah.
But it just seemed to me all those songs were like the best song in the musical. And they're very narrative songs. And I started thinking about how I could weave some of those songs together into a story. And I got in touch with Alan Parsons, and we talked about it, and he was very keen. So we picked the music, and we wrote the whole. They call it the book when it's a script for theatre. And the plan was that the Alan Parsons Project was going to be on stage every night, one part of the stage, while the action took place on another part of the stage. And, he's got millions of fans worldwide. It could have been a huge success, but it ran into a real problem relating to copyright.
Mhm.
Because his songwriting partner had died, and there were all sorts of issues relating to the copyright, and so it foundered on that, unfortunately. But I actually thought it would have been really great to do it. It would have been a great stage show, musical stage show.
Oh, it's a loss to us all, but you never
Yes.
know, might resurrect in some other way, shape or form.
Mhm.
Particularly now you've got the album out. Now I could sit and talk to you all night, but this is only going to be lasting until 8 o'clock, and we've only got about 15 minutes left. So I think we should throw over to our lovely audience, who are hopefully waiting in the wings with lots of questions. And the way this will work is Jessica Taylor from University of Highlands and Islands is going to facilitate this. So she will be looking at your questions and asking Peter them on your behalf. I think there is also an option for people to put their hand up and ask the question directly. So I will hand over to you, Jessica.
Thank you, Nicola. I have checked the Q&A in the chat, and we had lots of comments and lots of lovely comments and some funny comments from, I think, your bandmates, but I haven't had any questions yet. So
Oh, well,
it's an
now's your chance,
opportunity now if
everybody.
anyone wants to just ask a question in the chat, or if they'd like to pop up. We've got Billy has got his
Immediate
hand up.
hand.
There we go, Billy. Billy, you're good to just ask your question if you want to. Oh, we're not hearing you, Billy. Hold on a second.
Oh, I'm
might
seeing one here. Can you see that, Jess?
Yeah, I can see on the chat. I've got a question from Ian, and Ian has said, have you any plans to rework the Runaway album?
The Runaway album. Oh, gosh. No. Runaway was a collection of songs that Stephen and I put together. Stephen had moved permanently down to the south of Spain, and I had an apartment down there where I used to go and write. And Stephen was always badgering me to come and play music because he'd set up a little studio down there, and I had all these contracts to write books, and so I never got the time to do it. And now you look back and you really regret, because that would have been precious time. But Stephen wrote most of the songs. I think I wrote 2 or 3 of them. We recorded a lot of the stuff together in his little studio down in Spain. We were finding our way at that point in terms of the technology, in terms of being able to record, in terms of being able to write songs. I mean, we hadn't done a lot of songwriting in the past, so we were finding our feet on that. So the Runaway album is it's a kind of it's a piece of history, and it records the things that we did together. I mean, the Runaway, the title track itself was about when Stephen and I ran away to London when we were 17 and slept in the streets and stuff. I mean, yes, one could go back and one could do better versions of the song, but Stephen wouldn't be there and wouldn't be part of it. So it doesn't seem that would be a good thing to do.
Thank you. So Billy has popped his question in the chat, just because we couldn't hear him. So the question was, any plans to tour with the band and hit the road?
Any plans to tour with the band? Sorry, you dropped out there.
Yeah, any plans to tour with the band?
I'm just looking at the chat itself, so I can see it.
You might be quicker than me at this rate.
So, do some of the guys have said, yeah, we've got to do it. Mike Baxter, who's touring with Long Earth and doing a lot of gigs, saying, really, we should get together and we should do some gigs. We should tour. But I honestly, I don't see how it would be possible. I mean, we're all over the world basically, and to get us all together in the same place at the same time, rehearse. We don't have the equipment. We'd have to hire the equipment. It would cost a fortune to do it, and we'd never be paid enough to recoup the cost. And while in theory it would be fantastic to do it, and I would love to do it, I don't think it's very practical.
You could maybe do an ABBA-esque thing.
Yeah, get our avatars dancing on stage. Yes.
Yeah, there you go. You're into your technology.
So this is Ian
McRae, a question from Ian. I've always been aware of your
Yes.
musicality, but do you remember your super band appearance at the Caledonian Hotel for a certain TV show's rap
Certainly
party?
Yes, Ian McRae, I remember well, was part of the crew on Macha when we were making the Gaelic soap up on the Isle of Lewis back in the 90s. And we used to have some pretty crazy rap parties. And yeah, we had myself and I think it was the first AD on drums and the designer on guitar. I was playing bass. We played for the rest of the gang to dance to at the rap party. I think we were probably pretty crap, but it was a fun time, and we won't be doing that again anytime soon.
Thanks, Peter. I'll just read the questions out because we're recording this, and if anyone's watching it on YouTube, they won't necessarily see the chat. So a question from Ian Fever. Isn't that where you got the Tanglewood bass from?
No, the Tanglewood bass I got via a friend of Stephen's down in Spain. There was another bass guitar I got, which had been provided by the design department on Macha for some reason. I still got that bass, and it's down at my apartment down on the coast, where I do quite a bit of recording as well, and writing. So I can't remember the name of that. It was a pretty anonymous guitar, but I always enjoyed playing it.
I've got a question from Sophie. Do you have a favourite song on your album which you would take with you to your desert island, which you're about to be cast away to?
Is Sophie going to cast me off on some desert island, get rid of me once and for all? Do you know what? I wouldn't. I would take the whole album. Why not? After it come back from America, mixed and mastered, and it sounds quite different when that's done professionally from what you can do yourself in the studio. You know, I'm actually doing a sound engineering course to try and do that kind of thing for myself. But Luke is an absolute professional and did a fantastic job on it. So I wanted to listen to it. So when I was taking the dog out for a walk every morning, when I was down at the apartment, I had a little headset on, and I was listening to the album as I was walking the dog. And it's strange for something that you've written yourself and played, you know, a lot of the tracks on yourself, and it's you singing. It didn't actually strike me like that. I was actually, for the first time, listening to and enjoying the sound of the songs and the content of the songs. And I was listening to it a lot, and I didn't really tire of it. And then I'd get home, and my wife would be playing it in the kitchen, and singing along with it. So it's obviously quite catchy in some ways. But yeah, I would take the whole album onto the desert island.
Thank you. I don't have any more questions in the chat unless anyone else wants to pop their hand up or pop a question in. You've got a couple more minutes.
I see that Ian McRae is remembering who the other members of that rap party band were, Dave Mack and David Wilson. I've no idea what became of Dave Mack. Sadly, David Wilson died 4 or 5 years ago now. He had played in a band which had I can't remember the name of Pilot. They were called. Had a big hit back in the, would it be the 70s, called Magic. Hey hey hey, it's magic.
Oh yeah.
You know, and another song, January. So that's the background. That's where he'd come from.
Fantastic.
Yeah, you do have another question from Gordon Mackay, and the question is there a new book coming?
Well, you know, I'm retired. So, you know, I basically had given up writing books. But I think because it's all coming out now, for a reason, for special reasons that I won't go into here, I am actually writing another book. And I've done a lot of the development and research on it, and we'll be starting writing it in about 2 weeks' time. And it definitely will be the last book. But I'm quite excited about it. It's from something I developed a number of years ago and never actually got around to doing, and now I have the time and leisure to do it. So I'm quite looking forward to that.
That is exciting news. So you've left us with a cliffhanger, waiting to find out about this book. But I think those are the questions at the moment, unless anyone pops up very, very quickly. There's obviously a lot of demand already for another album before you've even properly launched this one. I mean, how are you feeling, first of all, about launching the album? Because you've obviously, it's so personal to you. It's kind of like having a baby, I suppose, and you're letting it out into the big wide world. So how do you feel about that now that everybody's going to be listening to it?
Well, it's a funny thing. When I had my very first book published, when I was, I don't know, I was about 24, 25, 26 maybe. it was that I was very, very excited about that. And, you know, along comes publication day, the book goes out, and it's just silence. It's like it gets published into a black hole. There's no instant feedback. There's no, you know, it takes time for that to happen. So it's quite, it lets you down in a sense. And in a way, it's kind of like that with anything, any of the books, anything creative that you put out for public consumption, you don't get instant feedback. Usually, the first feedback you get are from critics who don't like it, and you get kind of thick-skinned about that over the years. And I generally don't read critics. I don't read book reviews. I won't read music reviews because you know it's none of it's done for the critics. You know, they've got a job to do and they're doing it, and they're peddling their own wares in their own way. And it's funny. When you finish it, you don't really think about the reaction. You're thinking about on to the next. What am I going to do now? And you fill that gap, that silence, by doing something else.
Well, we know you've let the cat out of the bag that you are going to be doing another book, but will we see a different album after this one? After you've let this one out into the world, have you got plans for that, or?
It was definitely my intention to do another album. It is my intention, but it was my intention to basically have kind of started on it now this spring and into the summer. But having committed myself now to writing this book, the next album's going to have to wait for a while. I don't think that's a bad thing, because you need time for the well to fill up again. You know, I went dipping my bucket into that well many times to produce Towards the Light, and it leaves you feeling quite empty. So it will take time for that well of inspiration to fill up again, and but it will, and I'll get around to it. And when I've finished the book, I'll probably be dying to get back into the studio and writing songs and getting Ian and Mike and the rest of the boys working again.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Peter, and thank you to Jess for facilitating the Q&A session, and to everybody for asking Peter the questions, and also logging on tonight. And I'm sure this is going to see reach many, many more people after we finish the session. We're just about to wrap it up just now. So just before we go, this brings us to the end of a really special evening. A big thanks from UHI to everybody for joining us, and to Peter for sharing his music and his stories and this exciting new chapter for all of us. And we're already hearing about the next chapter on from this one. I mean, it's really been a privilege to celebrate this with you, Peter, because we've all enjoyed your books for so many years. We're now listening to your music, and we're hearing from the horse's mouth that there is plenty more to come yet. So we wish you every success with Towards the Light. Do go out and listen to it. 11 tracks, all fantastic. We're seeing all the thanks coming in from people who've been listening. So again, a huge thanks from the University of the Highlands and Islands for joining us tonight. Peter May, good night, and thank you very much indeed.
Thank you very much, Nicola. Thank you.
Thank you.